Weo mataru te hanyadute jatsi Wyandotte hati ngaya wish hayawane runo aye tarute inyomari hute sayin yestandi. I worked 27 years as a professional firefighter. I worked on my days off for a boot and shoemaker here in the area. My favorite thing was to go wander the woods wearing moccasins and just how quiet can I go, and actually sneak up on the deer. ArahŠuў is the Wyandotte word for moccasin. Even our messengers were referred to as ArahŠuў, as moccasins. That was the word for the runners because they wore moccasins. And when they sent messages for important events are coming up, or a chief has passed, or we're doing anything, they would send the ArahŠuў out to the different villages to make sure everybody got the word. It's a very huge part of our culture. We were never a horse culture, ever. We used the waterways with canoes and also, with our feet. That's how we got places. Primarily made out of buckskin. The moccasins, they're lightweight. If they get wet, they dry quickly. They were our primary mode of transportation and to protect your feet from the rocks and the briars and things that you might come across. But they do not have hard soles like the Western tribes would have. They're very distinctly Eastern woodland. They're easy to make, so if you are on a hunting trip or a war party or something like that, you could easily make a new pair. The Wyandotte word for Ohio is uhiju̥. For the ArahŠuў uhiju̥, you will need an awl, and then you need scissors, to go and cut out, your lace. To cut out that thong, you just take a circle of leather and cut it in spiral, and then once it's cut, you just pull it really firmly and it'll straighten right out. And so that gives you your thong. You also need scissors to cut out your pattern as well as your leather. After that, it really is you're down to a needle. You'd want to make sure you had a really nice hide that didn't have any defects in it. The moccasin that I made for the video is made out of commercial leather. Brain tan's very labor intensive, and it's kind of, to us, it's a valuable commodity because it takes so long to make. Our word for deer is skenoto. Sinew are the tendons from the deer, or ligaments that help the bone, the muscles move, the bones to actually move and walk. You have to just carefully cut them out, and whenever you're butchering the deer, you make sure and save that because you don't waste anything. You can't afford to. When I use artificial sinew, as I did in the pair that we made today, I like to take a lighter and melt it. It's nylon. Real sinew is great to work with, but to get it ready to go, you have to chew it. You just put it in your mouth and chew on it until it's nice and soft, and then you just thread up a needle and you can sew right along with it. Waxing thread, it lubricates it, and that's great for what we're using now. Also, because it's tacky, it also kind of locks it in. We do know that they had a string to tighten. Well, that also serves another purpose when you're making them, is you'll actually go and pucker the toe by running that leather, a thong through there, weaving it back and forth, and then you gather your toe up at that point. And then once that is done, you will stitch that to close it up. When you put your foot into the toe, once it's closed, you go ahead and make a mark, and then you cut the back to where it will actually go around the back of the foot. add the flap after the fact because it's just a lot better. It's more efficient with your leather, and also if you do bead or quill work on it, you want to make sure that that is on there and can be removed and put on another pair of moccasins without having to actually cut the flap itself. Different moccasins were made different ways for different weather. I mean, some of them, the flaps would be really long so you could wrap them up around your legs, or they might be lined. Sometimes they'd put a moss in there, or even an animal fur, a rabbit or so forth, just to create some warmth. They do get wet, but the process of when you make a brain tanned hide, after you're done tanning it, you actually have to smoke it. And that smoke puts those carbon particles up into the fibers so they don't stick together and become hard once again, because they would get almost like rawhide again. But the smoke keeps those fibers separated and keeps them pliable. Usually all clothing, moccasins, things like that were made by the women for their family. And everybody made different moccasins different ways. You learned from your mother or grandmother or even elders. They would teach you the ladies how to do this, and the girls, and they would be raised up in these skills. Ceremonial moccasins, which we still have around, are things, for dancing. We still have those because they were special. They weren't every day. They might use quill work, porcupine quills, when we were up in Michigan and even Canada and Ohio. But here in Oklahoma, we just don't have that. So basically, at the point of when we were in Kansas and then Oklahoma, we started beading using glass beads, which still to this day, we have some excellent beaders here in Wyandotte Nation. And they actually go and they will bead their moccasins as opposed to the porcupine quills. You see references of the Wyandotte, they dance all the time. I mean, the Jesuits made references to them, playing their drums and doing what they called hitting the bark, which was some of the early rattles were made out of bark. So that's the kind of thing you would have the fancy moccasins for. But a lot of the everyday moccasins, they didn't have any of that. Like the pair I made are ready to go, on a hunting trip or a war party, because you didn't need all the extras. There's a lot of extra work. Whereas just making a pair to get you by and to use daily, that works perfectly well. But the pucker toe was a predominant one for the Great Lakes tribes in the eastern woodlands. We know for a fact those with those strings like in the toe, that those are our Ohio style. Even later on with that style of moccasin, the pucker toe for the Wyandotte, they may not have had the strings in there, but they would even create stitching along that represented where those strings came out. Usually moccasins today are used for ceremonial purposes. We'll wear them for that or for dances. People do wear them for comfort. They're nice, especially around the house, because they're soft, and they fit very much like socks, our particular style. So, but yeah, ceremonially is mostly when people that don't wear them daily, that's usually when they're worn. Native technology is not something that's locked away in history and is inaccessible. Native technology is all about problem solving. It's about understanding you have a need for different things. Once you understand a little bit more about us, why we use the things we used, why did we have the moccasin? Well, it was practical, it was something that was durable. People moved across America, even the westward expansion, even as devastating as it was to the natives, that was facilitated by Native American technology and by their goods, things that the Europeans had no concept of. But the moccasin played a huge role in all of that. Moccasins are the basis of who we are. It's how we got around. It's how we went all these different places. They make me feel connected to my ancestors. To go where they did, the way they did. When we sit and we sing our songs and our music, and we wear our moccasins, and or just dancing in them, makes you really feel part of your history. Your moccasins, they're going to take you places.